Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to you wherever you are in the world to PronSIG's September webinar. We're so happy that you've been able to join us today, and I've seen in the comments from all over the world, which is fantastic. My name is Gemma Archer. I'm here along with Adam Scott. We are the PronSIG joint coordinators, and we're so happy to welcome September's speaker, which is Marisol Hernández, who is in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And Marisol is a lecturer in English phonetics and language. She's a Spanish-English interpreter, and she's an actress as well. She's interested in how actor training contributes to teaching pronunciation in EFL settings, fostering expressiveness and intelligibility. And this promises to be another fantastic, really inspiring webinar, which we hope you enjoy. Just before Marisol begins, please do note the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for Marisol, she'll answer these at the end, but you can type them into the Q&A box at any point during the webinar, and we'll actually ask Marisol your questions when we come to the end of the webinar session. And without further ado, Marisol, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. A big thank you to everyone who is online now. And of course, a special thank you to PronSIG IATEFL for having invited me to share with you my interdisciplinary approach to teaching pronunciation. I do hope we can have a very fruitful experience together, and that one day, maybe in the near future, you can even email me. Here's my email address to let me know whether you've tried some of the exercises that are going to be suggested today, and definitely what your experience was like. So let's get started by listing wait a second, there we go. Today's webinar's contents. So in this webinar, we are going to be discussing some challenges we may face when teaching pronunciation at all levels, and then explain why drama can help us tackle those issues that we might face when teaching pronunciation, basically throwing light on the very many similarities that there are between the two fields, the fields of pronunciation and drama. And finally, what to me is the meaty part of today's webinar is to propose an approach based on doing drama exercises in pronunciation classes. Definitely, you don't need to be an actor to be able to introduce this in your classes, or maybe you might be a student or any other language professional who is interested in this field, and you will see that you can definitely do these exercises without further problems. So, in this moment, I would like to hear something from you guys. So I'm going to encourage you to write either yes or no in the chat box as different challenges appear on the screen. So let's get started with the first one. If this has ever happened to you, if you've ever faced some of these challenges in your life as a student or as a professional, you might type yes. And definitely, if it's not, if it hasn't happened to you, you might go for no. Shall we start? So there it goes. The first one reads, because of their lack of pronunciation awareness, students might find it challenging to accept corrections. So let me open the chat so I can see some of your answers. Interesting. Cool. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. See, there it goes. Because of the stress factors, students cannot deliver intelligible messages. Of course, the stress factors can be triggered by many situations, but if this has ever happened to you, you might type yes, and if not, definitely go for no. Whenever we say intelligible in this webinar, we're going to be referring to conveying clear messages that can be understood both by natives and non-natives. So let me have a look. Okay, interesting. Sometimes Great. Okay, so the next one then. We hardly ever approach pronunciation instruction as a physical activity. It's known for a fact that it is a cognitive skill, but sometimes it might happen that we do not approach it as a physical activity. So if this has ever happened to you, go for yes, and if not, go for no. Great. Cool. And last but not least, we struggle to find motivated and useful approaches to teaching pronunciation, or we're interested maybe to find motivated and useful approaches. Okay, totally interesting. Okay, thank you very much for your proactive role in this very simple activity. As you can see, because I assume that you can all read the chat box, the yes answer in general has outnumbered the no answer. Of course, there'll be no's because we are a heterogeneous group of people from all over the world, and we have different, let's say, situations and different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. But I dare say that somehow in some moments of our lives, either as students or as professionals, we might have faced some of these challenges. So my approach then proposes the following. Exploring essential tools to actor training, and in this case, whenever I talk about actor training, I'll be referring to the training that drama students get to become professional actors. So we can get essential tools from actor training and apply them to our classrooms, or adapt them if needed to help English language learners improve their intelligibility and expressiveness in English. That's today's proposal. So first, let me throw some light on the reasons. I've taken some, to me, relevant voices, both from the fields of pronunciation and drama, to provide you with sound evidence on how these two fields actually thrive one from the other, right? So let's have a look at the first two challenges that we've mentioned. We've said accepting corrections and dealing with the stress. So let's have a look at what Wemble, who holds a PhD in English, said in the year 2001, when she wrote in her book Drama, that actually stress connected with pronunciation practice can be actually dealt with in a very efficient way if we used drama techniques. And at the same time, because of those drama techniques, students become more expressive and more willing to experiment both with sounds or intonation patterns. In the field of drama, we find loads of books which actually address the issue of tension and how to deal with stress on stage. But believe me that being on stage is much more similar to being in a classroom that we might think of. And this author, who wrote a book which is called Voiceful Performance in the year 2011, highlighted that it's of paramount importance to be as relaxed as possible when being on stage, or in our case, when being in the classroom, because tension in the body will produce tension in the voice. And it doesn't matter how much work we might do on pronunciation, if there is tension in the voice, no real improvement will be realized. The second challenge that we discussed was that we hardly ever approach pronunciation as a physical activity. And, well, probably some of you do know Adrian Underhill. He's a well-known phonetician. He's been writing about the physicality of pronunciation for years now. And to me, it's very interesting what he included in his book in the year 2005, when he said the pronunciation is the physical side of language. which involves the body, the breath, the muscles, acoustic vibration, and harmonics. And from the field of drama, there's a lot of information on this issue because, of course, physicality is at the core of drama. When we are on stage, we're using our body. And of course, when we think about our body, we should think about our voice to express emotions on stage. So it's very interesting what Dudley Knight, who was an American voice, speech, and dialect expert, wrote in the year 2005 in a very thought-provoking paper, because in that paper he explained that in the United States, in some schools, actors are trained using the International Phonetics Alphabet. And they are asked to transcribe their scripts, they say their lines, what they are going to be saying on stage, so that they can become more intelligible to all audiences. So you see that this is very similar to pronunciation instruction. And he argues that when students embark on this physical exploration, they free themselves from the muscle memory that pulls them back into their own accents. If we come to think about our situation, we can think about that pulls them back into their L1. L1 meaning students' mother tongue, right? So that is our comfort zone. We always want to go back to our L1. So he finishes this quote by saying that they start to free themselves from phonetic interference. And the last challenge that we mentioned was finding motivating approaches to teaching pronunciation. And definitely, I agree with Rainbow that I mentioned 2 minutes ago, that the use of drama techniques inside the classroom, it's an incredible way of motivating our students, basically because it's based on creating characters. That is drama about creating characters. And believe it or not, there's been a long time, actually in the year 2000, Brown wrote in his book, Brown, let me tell you, is a professor emeritus of English as a second language at San Francisco State University. And he wrote in his book that when we speak a second language, that is field, but we can apply this to foreign language, we are somehow creating a second identity. And that we're going to be maybe, as it reads here, borrowing traits from another culture, but it's going to be our own identity in the foreign language in our case. Let's say like putting in our case, I always tell my students, there might be here some attending today's webinar, putting the English coat on. And of course, there are loads of books which are mined of information about creating characters in the field of drama. But I've chosen a quote by Moss, who is an actor, a director, and an acting coach. And it's very interesting what he expresses in his book, The Intent to Live, that when he trains actors so they can speak different dialects because they need to speak a given dialect on stage, that work that they embark on helps them feel or have different impulses, different physical impulses. So if we think about L1 and L2, our mother tongue, and in most of our cases, the foreign language, maybe we can think that if we create a second, let's say a second identity, if we create our idiolect, our own way of speaking the second language or the foreign language, we can walk away from L1 interference. Today, we're going to discuss it a bit later. So, in this part, we have discussed then some challenges we may face, and we have explained, briefly definitely, but we have explained why drama can help us. So that we light on the very many similarities that there are between the two fields. So if you agree, we can then move to the proposal, how we can do this in our classrooms. Let me tell you first that my approach is influenced by my experience and research as a pronunciation teacher. And then I've analyzed the syllabus from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and that from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. And of course, my training as an actress and further research in the field of drama. So, by taking information from all these areas that I've just mentioned, I've designed this holistic approach, which comprises 3 learning levels. And the levels are called, I've given them these names, again, taken ideas from different, let's say, in this case, the syllabus from 2 very important academies. Vocal production is the first one. The second is called voice and speech. And the third one is building a character training. So my idea will be to explore each level in detail, to tell you the aim of each, and of course, to provide you with some very, let's say, down to earth and possible routines so that you can introduce this into your sessions. So let's get started with the first one, vocal production. In this case, the aim is to train our voice. It is really important to be aware of the fact that the voice is a tool. In the case of teachers, definitely it is. In the case of interpreters, in the case of any language professional, because actually, if, as we discussed some minutes ago, if there is tension in the body, there's going to be tension in the voice, and then it doesn't matter how much we do to improve and to try to become intelligible, there is somehow, I believe, like an obstacle in our way because we're having some issues with our voice. So in this case, I wrote that no required level of English, sorry, the required level of English is not one in particular, that's what I meant. In my case, let me tell you that I work at higher education. I work at teacher training colleges, translation studies programs, interpreting studies programs, and I coach professional translators and interpreters. So in my case, I can start with these type of exercises as soon as our classes start. However, I do believe that you can adapt this to meet your students' needs, and definitely I believe that this level is a possibility even for beginner classes. And now you'll see it in a minute. Give me a second. The exercises that I've listed here are the following: relaxation exercises, breathing exercises, resonance and voice projection exercises, and finally, vocal warm-ups. Probably among so many attendees, there are a lot today, guys, more than 200. Wow, I'm super glad. There might be singers, there might be people that have been working intensively on how to train their voice. So definitely, I believe this might ring a bell to many. So what I've prepared here is a 10-minute routine that you can actually use in your sessions. So let's get started. The first activity is the following. You're going to ask your students to find a comfortable place in the classroom to sit down. And then you're going to encourage them to be silent and to close their eyes. The second activity, you are going to be playing a video on mindfulness meditation. Let me tell you, I'm not an expert in the field. I just use the very many videos that are on the internet, which are fantastic. You can actually go then to YouTube and type mindfulness meditation for classroom, and you'll see that there are some for kids, some for teenagers, some other for adults. Here there is the linked one, and let me share with you a minute that I've selected so you can actually hear it. Hope that I've done things correctly, that I've shared my audio, but if not, let me know. Okay, as you can see, these are very short parts of this video. On this website, you can find 3-minute mindfulness meditation videos, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you can choose. Or there are very many other channels which contain very useful information you can resort to. In the third part of this activity, you can ask them then to stand up and to breathe. You will see that in this part of the exercise, we've worked on relaxation and breathing. And now we're going to be working on breathing and vocal warm-up. So this time we're going to be asking them to breathe 5 times. You can do it 10 times if you want to, but 5 times I believe is going to be enough. And then as they let out the air, you're going to encourage them to do so on different long vowels and ma and na, so they can start warming up their vocal apparatus. For example, ma, and so on and so forth, 5 times. Only when this is completed can you move on to the next one, which is a very interesting exercise to work on resonance, to use the whole body actually to help your body resonate. So here I've chosen a very interesting video from the National Theatre, as you can see. Actually, the teacher is the head of voice, and here you can see 2 actors. Now I'm going to play the video. I've just chosen a part to share with you now, but on the internet, again, on the National Theatre YouTube channel, you can find more exercises. So here it goes.
The arms, and let's imagine it going down into the belly and the legs, and just shake it down. Yeah, let that voice really loosen up, and shake it out of your legs and your ankles. Yeah. Great. And when your feet are flat on the ground again, let's hum and shake it right through your spine. Great, lovely.
So as you can see, first of all, it's great fun, and at the same time, it's useful. So I believe it's perfect. When this is finished, we can move on to the last exercise that I'm suggesting for this routine, which is to divide the class into 2 groups. So half of the group is going to be given the initiations of different dialogues. And again, as you can see, this is going to depend on your students' level, and you are going to be giving them the dialogues that they can actually understand. and the other half will have the responses. And the groups should be placed at considerable distance. So they should start reading aloud one by one. So one reads and the other one at the other end will answer, and so on and so forth. So the idea with this exercise that's been taken from the book by Wessels is to work on voice projection. What is very important is that you should follow the steps as I've suggested here, because as you can see, we start from relaxing the body and the mind to voice projection. So it's important not to change the order, because the voice will be, let's say the whole body will be ready to do exercise number 5 after having completed the first 4 exercises. Okay.
Of the arms, and
let's move on to level 2, if you agree, because this is it with level 1. In level 2, we are going, which is called, voice and speech. The aim of it is to improve intelligibility and expressiveness in L2, in our case English, in this foreign language. As you can see, the question, the notion of intelligibility has been discussed for a long time now. Today we are going to be referring to it as this possibility of conveying clear messages so that both native speakers and not native speakers of English can understand what we are saying. And when I say not native speakers, those who do share our mother tongue and those who do not. In this case, again, as I told you some minutes ago, as I work at higher education, I introduce this type of exercises when my students have some basic knowledge of the English phonemes, the sounds, and the weak and strong form of function words. However, again, I do believe that you can adapt this to your students' levels and needs. If they cannot transcribe, then you just work, now you will see, on some other features, and still they can improve their expressiveness. Which are the exercises that I've listed for this level? The following: script analysis and transcription. Let me tell you that when we refer to scripts, we refer to all the lines said, but all the characters in a play. And why are we working on plays? Because plays foster real communication. Our students will be reading about situations that can happen in real life. And then they can use that language, that vocabulary for their own oral production. So now we will see how to work on script analysis and transcription. Then we are going to be working on subtext analysis. In a second, I'll be telling you what this is about. Reader theatre and radio drama in the form of podcasts, and improvisations. So today we are going to be concentrating on the ones which are in bold. So this is a 5-class project that I've brought as an example. I've decided to start by showing you what my students managed to do after the course finished. This was the last activity that we did. Let me tell you that this was a pronunciation course aimed at improving and updating skills of both certified translators and professional interpreters. And well, let me share with you what they did. The play was Overtones, and this is the script. And now I suggest we can listen to them.
Harriet's fashionable living room. Harriet, a cultured woman, and Hetty, her primitive self. Harriet never sees Hetty, but rather thinks aloud. Hetty looks at Harriet and talks intently and shadows her continually. Harriet is seated at a tea table, busying herself with the tea things.
Harriet, my other self, my trained self.
Yes?
I want to talk to you.
Well,
Oh, Harriet, you're beautiful today.
am I presentable, Hetty?
So it's me.
I try to make the best of the good points.
My passions are deeper than yours. I can't keep on the mask as you do. I'm crude and real. You are my appearance in the world.
I am what you wish the world to believe you are.
You are the part of me that has been trained.
I am your educated self.
I am the rushing river. You are the ice over the current.
I am your subtle overtones.
But together we are one woman, the wife of Charles Goodrich.
Okay, congratulations to these guys, and definitely to the others that, of course, I've just chosen a minute from this podcast. But I don't know, more than 20 people were involved in this activity. This was just a one-act play. So I divided it into parts so that everybody could be part of the project. We recorded this using mobile phones, and then we added sound effects. Now I'm going to explain this to you. But this is the final activity. So what's interesting is to see how expressive they were. And actually with them, we just not work on prosody at all, right? We just concentrated on polishing certain sounds if needed, and then on subtext, as we are going to be seeing now. So let me tell you how we got to this. In class 1, you can choose a play which is being worked on in the literature class, or one suggested by students, or well, then it could be one that you can suggest that should be worked on. And then what you should do is to select 1 or 2 scenes according to the number of students that you have. And that's important because you should consider that everybody can be part of a project. And then in class, you can discuss each character's traits, like general traits, and assign the roles. Maybe some students are more eager, to play a given role. So I believe that should be also listened to, because they are going to feel, like more motivated, more willing to be part of a project. And then the assignment. The assignment will be that each student should analyze his or her character in depth. You've done a bit in class, and then they are going to continue working a bit more on that, stating the character's super objective in the play. Let me tell you what super objective means, because this is another term from the field of drama. The super objective is what the character wants and needs in the play. And also, we're going to encourage them to think and to analyze which the character's objective is in this scene. That means what the character wants and needs in this scene in particular. So by reflecting upon all this, they are going to be reading eventually their character's lines, knowing all the character's background and being aware of that. Let's see what happens in class 2. I've told you that it's a 5-class project. In class 2, we're going to be discussing their analysis of the characters. And after that activity is finished, we're going to be working on the concept of subtext. Let me tell you what subtext means, because again, that's another term taken from the field of drama. The subtext, in very simple words, is understood as the thoughts and motivations which are not expressed openly. Let me explain that to you using one example. Imagine you are given something for your birthday as a present, and actually when you see it, you don't like it. and you get the present, but you are very polite to say that you don't like it. And so you take it and say, that's beautiful. And you look away, right? Well, there's a lot which is not being said through words. So there is, well, yes, thank you, but this is not what I wanted. It's completely different if you get that present and say, oh my God, this is beautiful. That's another meaning. So my words in that case probably match the subtext because actually I'm saying what I believe. And then I know that you always give me the same thing as a present, like every year, come on, be more creative. So we take it as that's beautiful. Imagine, right? That's the subtext, being able to understand what is not being said openly. So if we work on that, even though our students cannot transcribe their lines, but we work on that, they can become far more expressive when they are using the English language. So when this is explained, let me check in, well, then there'll be questions. I wanted to check in the chat box if there was a question about this. So then we can ask them to transcribe their character slides. You know that, let me go back a bit. But here I've included, for example, the transcription. This is what in phonetics is called broad transcription, just transcribing the words. And here I included one which is basically what we call in phonetics narrow transcription, more detailed transcription. This is if they can. But if they can't, basically, we just skip this part and we analyze the subtext. And believe me that eventually when they produce or when they actually read those lines, they're going to be far more expressive. And we're going to encourage them at the same time to pay attention to stage directions. Again, another term that I'm taking from the field of literature and drama. The stage directions, again, I'll go back, are these, what Nicolas read, right, in the audio that I shared with you. Basically, is this secondary text, right, which is written by the playwright, the author of the play, in this case been adapted by me, but anyways, to provide the director of a play and the actors with further information about special lighting, about the costumes, about characters, you know, key information that is going to help us understand even what the characters are doing, which their physical actions are. So let's go back. So once we've explained all this to our students, we encourage them to transcribe or analyze the subtext. In class 3, we're going to check the transcription, if any, and the subtext analysis. And we're going to start doing oral practice, individual oral practice, and then definitely group oral practice. In class 4, we will continue working on their oral skills. And again, always lay an emphasis on the fact that they need to concentrate on the famous subtext to be as expressive as possible. And in class 5, we have 2 options. Option A will be the radio drama project. This is what I showed you at the beginning of this level. What is it about? Well, students will read the lines, aloud, being as expressive and as intelligible as possible while their voices are being recorded. In our case, we use our mobile phone and we recorded everything using our mobile phone. And then sound effects can be added. Probably there'll be some person, you know, that can handle some app and they can add some sound effects. And then this digital audio, which is actually a podcast, can be shared. and they can be listened to in class. And I do believe that is a very good tool to raise metacognitive awareness, because they are going to be listening to what they've done. They're going to be reflecting upon how much progress they've made, how important it's been to work as a group. And definitely we teachers can also detect if there are some challenges lying ahead to continue working on them in the future. And the second option, some of you probably know this activity, but you don't know that it's called reader theatre. Maybe you've been doing it in your sessions for a long time now. I don't know if, well, maybe you can, I hope you can see it. Students will read the scenes aloud, being as expressive and as intelligible as possible. Basically, they're going to be reading in class without interruptions, ideally, that's important. But in this form of theatre, neither costumes, nor props, or special lighting will be needed. So don't worry about that, right? They're just going to be in class. There'll be a moment, maybe first you can do the 10-minute routine of level 1, so they feel more relaxed, more in the present moment. The vocal apparatus has already been warmed up, and then you work on the reader theatre projects. So this is what we've done so far, guys. We've analyzed level 1 to improve, or actually to train our voice and some of the exercises that we've mentioned. And then level 2, that we've concentrated today on script analysis and transcription and subtext analysis, and then the 2 possibilities, either reader theatre or radio drama. So now we can move on to level 3. In the case of level 3, I've decided to call it building a character training. And let me tell you that so far, we've dealt with levels 1 and 2. And in those 2 levels, I've just taken some exercises which are at the core of actor training. And in some other cases, I've taken them and adapted them to our sessions. And in this case, everything's been adapted because, again, this is at the core of acting. Now you will see why. The aim of this level is to avoid L1 mother tongue interference and develop our idiolect, our own way of speaking a language in English. In my case, I introduced this type of exercises in advanced classes. So I suggest that at this level, students have some idea of the segments and some ideas about intonation, accentuation, and rhythm in English. But I'm sure that one day some of you will email me to let me know that you've adapted this to your students' needs, and I'll be super glad that you can do it. And in this case, the 3 types of exercises are observation, imagination, and physical embodiment exercises. This is at the core of acting: observing, imagining, and trying using our body. And again, going back to the beginning of this presentation, thinking that pronunciation is a physical activity. So, in this case, I've written down that this is a 1-month project. But believe me, that in my case, I've been observing the same speaker of English for a year now. So actually, it depends on how much you can get from that speaker that you've chosen. And now you'll see it in a minute. We are going to be asking each student to choose a speaker of English. And to me, it's vital that each person, each student should have the possibility of choosing that speaker. because of empathy, because they feel identified with that speaker, because of very many reasons. It could be because of that speaker's profession, likes or dislikes, I don't know, gender, nationality, whichever reason. So we should allow them to choose their speaker, the one they want to observe. And then the idea of observing is basically listening to and watching material in which that person interacts with others. In my case, I've been observing two for a year now, and both of them are actors for obvious reasons, because I feel identify with them. Of course, I watch the films and the shows, but at the same time, when I do this activity, I concentrate on interviews, for example, right? You know, when they're interacting, but not when they're playing a role, because when they play a role, probably they've built a character. So maybe it could be a bit confusing, but well, you need to try it and see how it works for you. So I concentrate basically on interviews. So every time we analyze that material, every person analyze that material, we are going to be writing down key information about that speaker, sounds, allophonic variations, if we can assess them, prosody, if we can assess it. I mean, it's as much as we can. But then also, not because if we come to think about the first part, sounds, allophonic variations, and prosody, we're talking about segmental and suprasegmental phonetics. But then, at the same time, I encourage you to pay attention to silences and to body language, because body language is going to help us a lot with the concept of subtext that we've just discussed. And we are going to be paying attention to facial and hand gestures, as well as postures and feelers. There might be sounds or there might be words, and interjections. So every time students are asked to read in class, I'm going to suggest that you should encourage them to imagine the context in which they'll be expressing themselves in English. It happens in my case, in my country, English is spoken as a foreign language, so actually students do not have the real need of using the language. So it's very easy to go back to our mother tongue. So if we ask them to imagine the circumstances in which they are going to be expressing themselves in English, maybe after the relaxation part from level 1, we might again go back to that routine, and once that is finished, can we move on to this one, to this activity? So we ask them to close their eyes and imagine the context in which they're going to be uttering those words. And finally, we can suggest, or actually we should make them become aware of the fact that by observing and getting inspired by what some other person does with the English language, they are going to be developing their own idiolect in English. Some minutes ago, before this session, we were discussing a bit with Gemma and Adam about this. And I was telling them that what I believe is that the imitation exercise that's been, that's been in our classroom for so long, might not be that effective, because what I feel is that when we walk out of the classroom, we don't feel identified with that we've imitated. It's someone else, and maybe we're good at imitating and that works, but maybe we're not, and we feel frustrated. But eventually, out of a classroom life, it's different from that imitation. So we need to find our ways of creating that second identity that Brown mentioned in the year 2000. So let me show you through an example how I work on this. This is one of the actors I usually observe, is Eddie Raymay. And I would like us to share this video. It's just a minute, and then I'll show you a bit some relevant features that here I've listed.
That's a very good question, and one of the things that continues to sort of shock me, I suppose, when I read the script of The Danish Girl, in it you saw violence against a trans woman, you saw discrimination, you saw her struggling to find with doctors and healthcare, and what I found astounding is that 70 or 80 years on, whilst there has been some progression, there is still so far to go. You know, the violence against trans women, particularly trans women of colour in the United States, but all over the world, healthcare problems, the fact that you can be fired in 32 states in America for being trans. It's astounding to me that despite this story, it's taken so long. And I think what's amazing, in the past year, the discussion has become mainstream, and it's about cisgender people educating themselves and learning to be allies to the trans community, and that's what the great education that I've had in this film, because I was incredibly ignorant.
Okay, interesting. An interesting topic, definitely. So, for example, in this case, I've listed some features, and it gets maybe a bit technical at the end, but this is as long as your students are trained to do it. So, for example, here we can reflect upon the va sound when it says very violence, and very many other examples. And the za sound when he says trans, or the added s at the end, right, of certain words. These are two really challenging sounds for Spanish speakers of English. So that's why probably I've focused a bit more on these. Then what he does with the long vowels, right, when he says girl or saw, what he does with the dark la when he says girl or health, what he does with the weak forms of function words when he says there's been some progress, if I'm not wrong, says something, yes, here I have it. There's been some progression, there's been some progression, there's been some progression. Interesting to reflect upon the weak forms. And then hand gestures, which is amazing to me. I mean, what he does is expressive. He takes the time. It's a very fascinating topic, and at the same time, he's really into this. So he's taking the time to explain himself and to make his ideas as clear as possible. And then the silences, which are very interesting. And then a bit something more technical, like the use of a full rise, when he says, what I found astounding, dun, dun, dun. And then, well, this is more technical, but which element he stresses in each utterance he utters, right? So, and if there are exceptions, and if not, again, you are going to be suggesting this activity to your students, but what's very important is that they should do what they can do, and it's going to be enough. So, in this part, then, we've dealt with a holistic approach, divided in 3 learning levels. Remember, vocal production to train the voice. Then the second, there was script analysis and transcription and subtext analysis. And then the 2 possibilities are either readers theater or radio drama in the form of a podcast. And this 3rd level, that is observing to create our own idiolect in English. So these are all the sources. And I wanted to finish with this beautiful to me and inspiring quote. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Marisol. What a fantastic topic. And I think I speak for everyone when I say how inspired we all are. And I'm sure everyone has lots of ideas that they're going to want to try out in the classroom in the coming teaching week. So thank you for sharing all of this information. Now, we're going to run a Q&A. We've had some really fascinating questions coming in. Once we've done the Q&A, please don't run away, because we do have some really exciting and important information for all of our participants today. So do hang around once we finish. So Marisol, the questions that we've had, I'll read out the first one for you. And apologies to anyone if I mispronounce your name. I'm so sorry in advance. The first one that we've had is from Berke Yilmaz. Apologies, Berke, if that's the incorrect pronunciation. They've asked, how can drama events be prepared or shaped for students who show the most efficiency when they work alone? Traits such as being an introvert may require us to change the way we approach the activities such as drama. And thank you in advance.
Yes, I think there is some, to me, misconception that drama is for those people who are not, or those people that, you know, love showing themselves. And I believe that that's not the case. We can actually thrive on drama. I'm not suggesting that teachers should be actors. I'm not suggesting that students should be actors. Basically, what I'm trying to propose is taking some activities which are essential to actor training and adapting them to our students' needs and possibilities. So if you feel that some of the activities are not really appropriate or are a bit too much, then I'm sure that you do know your group, and you little by little, you can start by just 1 or 2 exercises. For example, mindfulness meditation. That's going to prepare everyone to be more relaxed and more willing. And actually they do nothing, you know, they are just, they can be even, you know, in the same place they usually are in the classroom, just closing their eyes so they won't be exposed, they won't be seeing anyone, and you just play the video or the recording. Maybe that's just one step. And maybe some other day you can go for another exercise, and so on and so forth. Just try one at a time. And I do believe that that can work.
Super, thank you. Monica Vidal, who seems to be a bit of a fan now of yours, Marisol. She said, I love this. I'd like to know if these exercises can be put into practice during online learning. It's so difficult even to have students turn on their cameras.
You're so right. Thank you for that question. And actually, I was thinking about this because this year we've all been working online. So I've tried this online, but I need to be honest with you guys. I've tried it, but not so much, because it was surprising to me as well. Let me tell you that we are still under lockdown in my country, well, in this part of the country. So actually we are not having face-to-face sessions. This is a difficult situation, because this question of physicality needs like sharing the same place, you know, on the same moment. However, I believe that, for example, level 1 exercises, definitely you can do them. I mean, you can copy and paste this routine I've just given you, and you can do it. So maybe the question of dividing the class, remember that exercise number 5 for voice projection, it's not possible because of the setting. But then the rest, the meditation, breathing. I do breathing exercises with very many students. Some will be online now. And we work on the mindfulness meditation So there is some parts that still can be done. And then for level 2, let me think, still you can work using the plays, and you can do a bit of, radio drama, but maybe they can record what they do at home and then send everything to you, and you can put everything together, and then you've got the radio drama. And for level 3, I believe that yes, because it's a question of observing, so they can do it on their own. Actually, level 3, it's quite, let's say, independent work, so they can do it on their own. And then you can suggest that every time they are using the language, the English language in class, they can try some of the features from the observed speaker.
We've had another question regarding shyness. This one is from Christian Cardozo. Apart from masks, which are generally used to help shy students engage in this kind of drama-oriented activity, is there any other approach you would suggest to help them overcome their shyness?
First of all, that we shouldn't be shy. I believe that's something that's going to help them a lot. I forgot to mention this, and thank you very much, Christian, I guess was his name, for having asked this question. I'm going to suggest that you should try these exercises with your own students. If you want, give it a try. I mean, it's fun. And if they see that you are doing it, well, then why not? You know, it might take a while for shy students, and it's fine with being shy. That's also important, right? We should tell them that it's fine. They can't be expressive and shy. The important thing is that they sound expressive when they speak in the foreign language, whether they are shy or not. So maybe the first tip that comes to my mind now would be try to get involved in the activities, try to do the activities with them, and then creating the correct atmosphere. I believe if we create an atmosphere in which there is respect and there is this sense of belonging, of teamwork, you know, this is a very short anecdote, but when I started delivering the course on pronunciation for professional interpreters and certified translators, I was afraid that maybe they didn't want to participate because they would feel too exposed. And little by little, all of us created the correct environment for all that to happen. You could hear what they could produce. So I believe it's a question of getting involved and telling them that everything's going to be okay.
Thank you, Marisol. We've had a question from Yassine Bolat, and they've asked if the second level might be suitable for students with autistic spectrum disorder or ADHD, because some are not able to infer or read subtext. Any thoughts?
Wow, that's a very interesting question, and probably one that I cannot answer. I need to be honest with you. I'm not into that field, so probably it's not suitable. But actually, I'm terribly sorry, but I cannot answer that question because actually I don't really know. Probably this person knows far more than I do about that topic. And if you work with the students that might have that condition, then you will know how to adapt it to make it work for them.
Perhaps Yassine can do some experimenting in his own class or in their
Yes, please, and then email me. Please, guys, try everything and then email me so I get your wonderful feedback.
Great. Monica Vidal has asked another question, and she's asked, do students need to know about intonation theory?
Not really. not really. As I've told you, for example, for level 1, I believe this can be introduced as from beginner class, because everything has to do with training the voice. And for level 2, in fact, I've tried this in 2 different courses, and they had no idea about prosody at that time. They did this by working on the subtext. So, I mean, the results were amazing. So if they know, thrive on it, definitely. I mean, and you might encourage them to think about where the nucleus falls on HIP and which tones they should be producing and how to segmentate the material, etc., etc. So you are going to be adapting this to their knowledge, but I don't think they will need it.
David Fernando has asked, should teachers teach narrow transcription in the classroom?
Oh, what's the question? I believe it depends on students' goals. I believe that's the answer. In my case, I can speak about my experience in teacher training colleges and translation studies programs and interpreting studies programs. We must teach it in Argentina. But what I do believe about transcription, and this is my humble view, is that it should be a tool. When the transcription ends up being an obstacle, then I believe that it's not working. So if you believe that introducing narrow transcription in your sessions is going to help your students improve certain features of connected speech, that if not, they cannot, go for it. And if not, just forget about narrow transcription and just do it in a more physical way. Let's take, for example, Spanish, which is my L1. So we need to focus on aspiration because there is no aspiration for in Spanish. So we need to work on that. And if you feel like showing your students which the diacritic is, because you believe that that's going to help them then remember which process they need to produce, just go for that. And if not, just ignore narrow transcription.
Fantastic. Taragi Al-Saidi has asked, how can we add sound effects to the recording? So do you have any recommendations?
Well, actually, I need to be honest with you guys. My husband did it because he knows how to, but I had another group that was a student that downloaded an app. I should have written down which app it was, but I think you can go to your app store and check add sound effects or sound effects for podcasts, and I'm sure you'll find. Sorry, I don't have a name now, but there might be some available.
Great. Yeah, I think there are quite a few available, and if you Google, you can probably find some.
Yeah.
Okay. Claire Solomon has asked if you could just explain the difference between option 1 and 2 again, just for clarification.
Yes, let me go back if you want. This one, I guess, right? She might be referring to option A and B. Am I right, Gemma?
She said option 1 and 2. I don't know if she means the levels or...
Okay, maybe. Don't know.
Claire, if you want, if you're still here, you can maybe send us a clarification and we can come back to you. She said, I mean the radio drama and the theatre.
Yeah, great. So, yes, the greatest difference is that in one option, in the radio drama project, the voices will be recorded. And in the case of radio theatre, there'll be no recording whatsoever. So in this case, it's something similar to radio drama, to the traditional radio drama. But now, of course, as a podcast, as a digital audio. So the voices are recorded, and then if we want, we can add some sound effects. in the case of reader theatre, just reading in the classroom, some teachers decide that, for example, everyone should be dressed wearing the same color, like everyone might be dressed in black. So no, we should concentrate just on their voices and their expressiveness through their voice. So there isn't that we won't concentrate on what you're wearing a given day, because actually, as I wrote here, neither costumes nor props or a special lining will be needed. Probably you do this, guys, in your classes. The idea is that it should be read at stretch without interruptions. And in the case of radio drama, the voices will be recorded. And to me, this option is really, let's say, it's an enriching experience, because it helps us then to go back to it and to listen to it and to reflect upon what we've done.
Thank you. And yeah, it looks like Claire is going to be doing some of the radio drama work in her class as well. So
yeah, that would be fantastic.
Gisela Lozada has asked, do you have a favorite book related to pronunciation?
Oh, I'm losing you a bit.
Oh, I'll repeat that. Do you have a favorite book related to pronunciation?
Well, I believe that Adrian Underhill's Foundation, it's incredible, because actually I admire the way that he approaches pronunciation. He's been talking about the physicality of pronunciation for years now, when nobody almost spoke about that. So I would recommend that one. And I would say that that's one of my favorite. I would say that most books are really useful if we can actually take what we need from them, right? And understanding that they should become tools, they should guide us, and we know what our students need, because we are going to be assessing their needs and then taking the best from each book. But if I've got to mention one, I'll go for that one.
Great. Meg Ross, or Meg Rossi, apologies Meg for not knowing the pronunciation of your second name. She has asked, do you have any suggestions for directing students to potential material that can be downloaded for them to work on?
I believe might be referring to potential material for level 3. I mean,
I believe
this part when they've got to choose a speaker of English. If I understood correctly, then I believe that we should encourage them to choose a person they feel identified with, because they'll be able to observe and to thrive on that observation. As I was telling Jem and Adam some days ago, when we act, when we are creating, when we are building a character, we observe all types of people to get traits from their ways of moving, from their ways of expressing themselves. We even observe animals. What I mean is, we need to observe that one that is going to help us create, in this case, our idiolect. So I'm going to suggest that you should encourage them to take enough time to find that person they feel identified with.
Great. Yes, that's been a common question. Where can we get resources? Claire Solomon again has asked if you know of anywhere that she could buy any interesting scripts, mentioning it's Black History Month coming up, so it would be good to find something suitable for that. Do you have a favourite resource, Marisol, where you go to get scripts that you use in class, or is it more random?
It's a bit more random, to be honest with you. I get different plays and I read them and I feel they are interesting. We should be careful with royalties. There should be, for example, this one, Overton was free, let's say. So it's a bit more random, I guess. And you know, to put in very practical terms, you should know how many students we have in a class. you know, if there are too many, I don't know, too many girls, too many boys, or if they want to play some other role, it's going to be fine as well. I mean, we need to assess a bit our students as well to know how many there are, and sometimes we are going to be choosing also because of that, because we've got too many, or because we've got to divide it in certain ways. So I guess it should be something that you like. That's why when I introduced that part, I said maybe you can use some play which is being worked on in literature classes. And that's interesting as well, you know, because this question of character analysis is something that they will also be doing in their literature sessions. So it's going to help you a lot at the same time.
Wonderful. Marisol, we've had so many questions. We've actually had 35 questions and we have run out of time. I'm so sorry if we didn't get to your question today, but we would definitely encourage you to send Marisol an email if you didn't get your question answered. I'm sure she'd be so happy to hear from you and to discuss this more. Alternatively, you could also check out the PronSIG social media, and I'm sure the discussion can continue there if you'd like to hear more. Once again, huge thanks to Marisol for all of her efforts today. It's been really inspiring to hear all about her method, and I'm sure everyone has got lots of ideas from it. So thank you again, Marisol. I'm now going to pass you all over to Adam Scott, who's got some more information for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I'd like to share a bit of information. First of all, you'll be able to find the, can everybody see my screen? Marisol? Yeah, you'll be able to find this recording and all the other PronSIG webinar recordings on our YouTube channel. And you can also, of course, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. But I'm really excited to tell you about our upcoming conference, which is coming up on the 4th of October, all online, on Sunday the 4th of October. And the focus of this conference is to help teachers guide learners' understanding of intelligibility, exactly as Marisol was talking about, which will enable students to become more self-aware, more self-confident, and more self-directing in their pronunciation development, as in other areas of their learning. And this conference is going to be very special because it's only £5 for the entire day. Tickets, we've kept the price as low as possible to ensure as much participation as possible. And you can see that we're going to cover the themes of attitudes to diverse accents, encouraging acceptance of global Englishes, creating materials using diverse accents and ELF perspectives, and overcoming accent or non-native English-speaking teacher prejudice in ELT. And we aim to focus on how we can teach pronunciation more inclusively, create classrooms which are inclusive, promote equality and acceptance of diverse Englishes, and replace content focused on accent reduction and prestige native English speaker models to ensure that all students' accents are fairly represented in classes and materials. You can download the program on our website, and the program has got details of all the speakers for all of the sessions, and there's also a handy timetable for you to look at as well. So please go to this page on the website, and I'll just pop that into the chat for you now, and sign up so that we can all share in this great opportunity to develop pronunciation for our learners. And so I'm just popping the link in there now. And I'll also pop into the chat box the links to the certificate which people have been asking for, and also to the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. So that's everything from us. Thank you very much for coming today. We really appreciate you being here. Marisol, thank you again. Any last words?
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. I'm super happy. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Take care.